Hey everybody, it's Kriss, and we are going to do a fun little project tonight. I've done this before, but I just came back to it again because Christmas is coming and it's just really a great gift item, and it is just oh so easy, and they really turn out adorable. I am on a few Facebook groups that share SVGs, share different images and such. One of the groups that I was on, someone had created these stained glass villages, and I thought, I love the colors. I think they're really unusual colors, not something you typically see for Christmas, but I thought when I saw them that they would actually make really cool night lights. So I thought I would pop on and we'd do a quick little video on how to create these and make these into night lights for you. So I've got some of our supplies sitting out here. These are the night lights that I prefer to use when I'm making the this particular style. It's an automatic night light. It comes on when it gets dark and then goes off when it's light. I love the fact that it has a square panel on it that is clear, and we're just going to adhere our printed vinyl onto this and then UV resin over the top to seal it. But it's really a great shape, and it's really super easy to use. Some of the night lights that I've made in the past have nightlight clips and bulbs and all kinds of stuff. These are just so darn easy, it's not even funny. So stay tuned and let's make some super cute night lights. All right, so I have my design studio opened up. I have a Cricut, so this is what we're going to use to design the night lights. It's really a simple process to do print and cut, and you can do so many cool things with it. I start out by measuring my night light to see what the measurement of the square is, and it is just under 3 inches. Now the night light has a has rounded corners on it, so if I go over here to my shapes, there's actually a rounded corner square that we are going to use, this one right here. And then I'm just going to pull this back so you guys can see. Right now it's at 2 inches, and I want to set it at 2.95. I like to have as big of a surface as I can for the image, just because that's, you know, the part that's the prettiest on the nightlight, right? All right, so I'm hoping that you guys are able to see this okay. I've got my camera held up and hopefully everything just stays where it needs to stay for right now. I know I've got some shadows and I apologize for that, but okay, so I know that 6 of these will fit onto 1 sheet of print and cut. So the next thing that I need to do is bring my images in, and I already have my images in Cricut. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click these guys, and we're gonna add all of these onto, let's unclick this one and do this one instead. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so there's 6 of them. And I'm gonna close this back up. Now I know that my my images are, they came in at 7 inches. I know that my square is 2.95. So I'm just gonna resize these to 3 inches. And then we should be able to do a slice on it and get our rounded corners, and everything should be perfect. So I'm just coming up here and editing. I want to keep the image locked because I want it to stay a square image. I'm keeping the image locked because I want it to stay a square image. So I'm just downsizing these guys to 3 inches so that they're a little more manageable. And this last one will go down to 3 inches. All right, and then let me just kind of move some of these guys out of the way, and we can work on these one at a time. Okay, now I'm gonna make this a little bigger for you so that we can see it better on the screen. It's kind of tricky working on it when I'm trying to see around my camera. Okay, so I'm just gonna take this, I'm going to edit and bring up my little side panel. I'm going to arrange, and I want this square to be on the front. And then I'm just gonna let this go away for now. And I'm gonna take this guy up, and I'm just gonna center it on the image. So you want to try to, let me see if I can get this in here so you can see. I want to make sure that I have a little bit of the image showing around the square that I'm going to slice, okay? So let me just put this back in because now all you can see is my camera holder instead of what I want you to see. Okay, so I'm going to take my cursor, I'm going to hold my mouse down, drag up so that I combine both of those, or I'm grabbing both of those pieces, and then I'm going to come right down here and I'm going to slice. So what that's going to do, I can pull this out because I'm going to use that again, and what that does then is create our rounded corner image that's going to fit perfectly on our nightlight. And then I can go ahead and delete this scrap because we don't need it, and I'm just going to place that right over here all the way at the top. And then we can go on to our next piece. And again, I'm going to take this, I'm going to center it around the image, and then I'm going to grab both of those pieces, and I'm going to slice again and drag out my pattern. There's our beautiful nightlight piece. Now I will say that this beige one up here, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to look when we get it done. It may be a little bit too pale, but I like the fact that it's beige and not white. You don't want to choose items or images that have a lot of white in them because the white is not going to print. You're just going to end up with like a blank space on your vinyl, and trust me, that doesn't look great. What I did like about these is that they're kind of ivory colored, so I'm hoping that when they print, they will turn out really great. I don't know if this is part of our image. I think it is, of our last one. All right, I'm gonna take this up and center it around. I do try to go with images that are very bold in color because once you put the light behind them, it does wash out the images. And so it helps if your image is really bold. Oh, I did that one twice apparently. I really like that one, I think. Okay, so let's grab this one. You can also look online if you have a Creative Fabrica membership. You can look for stained glass images and you'll find tons and tons of images that work great as night lights. I can show you one of them that I have here as a sample that looked really nice. All right, and then I have this one, and we're gonna center that, and we're gonna slice it. Okay, and then line this up here. And then let's go grab just one more here. Let's grab this one and add it to the canvas. And we're gonna size it down to 3 inches. And we're gonna drag this over here. We're gonna delete this one. And then we are gonna take this guy and put it on top again. So we'll go back up here to edit. And we're gonna arrange it and bring it to the front. Get rid of this little window. And then we're gonna go ahead and slice this guy. Okay, and that is how easy it is to get your images ready to print. And I'm just gonna go ahead and line this up down here. And then I'm gonna delete this. And now you see, as I move this back, now we have 6 images, okay? And just gonna line this up a little bit more. I know that all of this will fit onto one. You can see that I have print and cut chosen. And what I do is I drag my cursor up, or my mouse. I grab all of them. I'm going to group them all together. The next thing I do is flatten it, okay? And then I'm going to go up here to make, and I'm not gonna save it right now, but you would want to save it, and then you can go in and just add other images, swap them out. We're gonna do print and cut, so I'm going to continue. I want to send it to the printer. This is showing me that there will be registration marks once it's done. And then I'm going to use my Epson 4800, which is an EcoJet printer, which is a fantastic printer. I love it. We do not want to add bleed. Add bleed would be if you were printing something that you wanted to make sure that all of the edges were included and your lines and your cuts were like precise, but we don't want to add bleed with these because I already know that these are the size that I want them to be, and I don't want the edges to be blurry by any means. And then I am going to use System Dialog, and what System Dialog allows me to do is to change the parameters of how I want this printed. So I'm going to use my Epson 4800. I'm going to go to my preferences, and I'm using 8.5 by 11 paper, but I like to choose the photo paper glossy. And this I'm printing on printable vinyl, but I find with my Epson printer that if I choose photo paper glossy, it gives me a very nice image. And then I'm going to change my quality to high, and then I can go ahead and print this. I'm gonna cancel this because I actually have one all printed. Once it is printed, we're gonna say that we're done. And then my base material is actual printable vinyl is what's gonna pop up for me to choose, maybe. And we might just skip this part because if you have a Cricut, you already know how to choose your material and set it onto the cutting mat and cut it. So let me switch back down to my mat. All right, through the magic of television, we already have our vinyl cut and ready to go. I did want to show you, this is a nightlight that I had done before. Like I said, these are just a really great gift. And this is one of the stained glass images that I found on Creative Fabrica. But I like to add just a little bit of glitter into my resin so that it's sparkly. So I'm going to set this off to the side, and then we are going to grab just a sanding block that I have. And what I'm going to do is just kind of rough up the edges on this because I want to make sure that my vinyl stays down. And these are kind of a slick surface. So I'm just going to rough up the edges with sandpaper. Okay. And then I do not have my... don't have my little stylus over here, so let's see if I can get this up with an X-Acto knife. So I'm just going to peel my image up off of my vinyl. This is clear printable vinyl, and you will see once I get this down why it works really well for these. This will allow the light to shine through, and I want to make sure that I have it down far enough. This is kind of the trickier part. So let me actually line it up. I'm going to turn this backwards because it's easier for me to see. So I want to make sure that I'm leaving an edge because we need to have a surface for the resin to cling to. So I find sometimes it's easier to work upside down because then I can line up this top edge. And then the next thing that I want to do is just take my finger and make sure that I have all the air bubbles out and that the edges are sealed down perfectly. Okay, so this is the printable vinyl, and as you can see the light through it. One thing I will say that I'll show you once we get started on this, that clear printable vinyl is not actually clear to start with. It's kind of a translucent, let me see if I can peel this up and show you what I'm talking about. It kind of has like a opal or a kind of a cloudy look to it, if you will. There we go. You can see that. Do you see how it's like kind of milky looking? Don't worry about that. That's going to go away when we put our UV resin on, but this is about as clear as you can get when you buy printable vinyl. And I use, oh gosh, I can't come up with the name of it right now, but I will post down below the one that I use off of Amazon. It's really inexpensive, and I've had really fantastic luck with it. All right, so once I get to this point, now I'm ready to put some resin on it. And I use these little 1 ounce medicine cups. It's like a medication, or it's actually like a medicine cup, I think is how it's listed on Amazon. And they work really great because you can set it down and the plug is sitting on my mat and it's at a level surface. So it works really nicely to be able to put the glitter and the resin on. Okay, so I've got a clean cup here and I'm using Counterculture UV resin. This is my favorite resin to use for these. It works really well. It is a nice consistency. and I don't tend to have any allergic reactions to it, which is really good. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some of this in here. That's probably more than what I need, but I'm going to work on some more of these anyway. And then this is a super fine glitter I bought from Counterculture. I don't think they carry it any longer, but you can find super fine glitters online too. I like gold myself. I use gold in a lot of my nightlights, as the one, you know, that I just showed you had gold on it. I think it just adds a little extra sparkle, and I like sparkle. And this particular image has kind of some gold lines in it, which obviously not metallic gold because it's not that kind of a printer. But so this kind of, I feel like, will work really nicely with it. I don't put a lot in there. I just put enough to add just a little zhuzh to it. Zhuzh is a word, right? And then I'm just going to go ahead and apply this right on here. That actually may have been about enough for it. And you can see my little sparkle. See it? Isn't it pretty? Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and push this out and make sure that my resin goes all the way out to the edge of it. I like the silicone brush that has the conical, kind of like cone end on it. And honestly, I usually pick it up so I can see at this point, because if the light's not hitting it just right, I can't tell. You want to make sure that the entire image is covered, because if it's not, you will be able to tell as soon as you're done with it. You can always go back and add on another coat, but why waste product if you don't have to? Now the UV resin does have, it's, you know, as you can see, it was in a black bottle. If you've used UV resin before, you know it's always in a dark bottle, because sunlight will actually set it. And I have my UV light over here, but sunlight will set UV resin. So if you're making a bunch of these, I've done this before where I was making a bunch. You can actually, oops, wrong cup. You can actually set these out in the sunshine and they will cure. So you can set up a whole cookie sheet with little cups on it and then set them up to cure outside. But the sun's not really shining here today, so. And sometimes the UV light is much quicker. So I'm just going down here on the bottom and making sure that I've got all of this covered. This kind of helps to seal in the image and to make sure that it is sealed down to the light base. Again, just checking to make sure that I have all of my edges covered. And sometimes you have to pick it up and get it in the right light so that you can see that, because I thought I had everything covered, but as I picked it up, I could see that I didn't. Okay, so I'm just gonna check and make sure that all of my edges have resin and kind of wipe some of this off that I went over on the edge with. And then I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so the next thing that I need to do then is to pop the bubbles. And I use 91% isopropyl alcohol in a little spray bottle. And this works really great for UV resin. I don't know that you'll be able to see this, but I can see it if I have the light just right. So what I do is I spray that, and I kind of want to let it set just a couple of minutes to make sure that all of my bubbles are popped and that it also helps to level out the resin too. So I always make sure that I kind of let it sit for a minute. I don't want to pop it under the light too quickly, because if there is alcohol on the surface, it can do some funky things to the resin on the surface. I'm just trying to make sure that my edge is covered over here, but okay. So remember how I said that it's kind of a cloudy, translucent looking image when you first peel it off? So now that the UV resin has set on it, my cloudiness is gone too. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this over here in my UV light. When I'm doing, when I'm curing the resin for the tops of my images, whether it's an acrylic blank or whether it's the night lights, I like to go for about like 30 seconds, and then I pause it and let it sit for maybe 30 seconds, and then I'll go back and turn it back on again. I don't like to let it set too long. I say cook. I don't know I don't want it to be exposed for too long, because if it gets too warm, it will crackle the surface of the resin, which also is not a good look. So I like to kind of give it a break in between, just to kind of let it slowly process, if you will. I have a double-sided lamp, so I've got lights on the bottom and on the top. So this works really nicely for the night lights because it's doing both sides at the same time. All right, so it is all set now. I generally do about 2 30-second bursts, and then I'll go back and do about 120 to 180 seconds to finish setting the resin. But it is really pretty. I love this one. I really think that beige was the way to go, because you can actually see the snow on the rooftops, and if it were white, you wouldn't be able to see that. So I really love that. And if I hold it like so, you might be able to see it with the light behind it. There we go. So that's basically what it will look like when it's lit up. So that's really pretty. Love this. And I think my little granddaughter is probably going to get this for her room for Christmas. Okay, so you can see the little glitter that's in there. Like I said, you don't have to do that. I just think it's a little extra thing that makes it look pretty once it's lit, or when it's not lit up, excuse me. But really, really love the night lights. And like I said, super easy gift. The night lights will go on sale if you watch Amazon. They'll go on sale for like $15 for a box of 4. So that's only $3.75. And then I would say with the resin and the paper, the vinyl, you might have 50 cents in supplies perhaps. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of resin. I mean, this is a 1 ounce cup, and I bet we may have used maybe a third of an ounce, if that. So it truly doesn't take very much resin to cover it, but what a pretty little gift. And I gave these to coworkers last year, and one person's really hard to buy for or make for. And she said she loved it because it was a great, useful gift that they would use. So another great reason to give those as gifts. All right, guys, I think that is everything I have to tell you about night lights. Please make some. If you follow me on Liquid Art on Facebook, if you make some night lights, I would love for you to share those with me. I would love to see what you make. I will put a link to Counterculture DIY, their website. That's where this lovely pink cheetah mat came from, as well as the UV resin. But I will put a link on there so that you can find that easily. If you have any questions, please let me know. I would be happy to help you as much as I can. I hope you have a fantastic day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.